What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we're talking all things quarterbacks, tiers, bets, rankings. We got it all with our friend Will Brinson from CBS Sports and the Pick Six podcast. Brinson, thanks for coming on Moxie Bets.
Of course, Katie. I will do a podcast anywhere, anytime with you. And if you tell me when to show up, I'll show up there. Now, sometimes I may stumble in a little late because I'm an idiot, but the irony, of course, is that I feel like I've been on time to basically every Pick Six podcast we do, but then Moxie Bets. But I'm thrilled to be on here. Omaha Productions, you, and Quarterback Talk.
Yes. And quarterback talk. Yes. So, Will, I know you've been doing radio all week long, but you stirred up quite a bit of drama with your controversial piece on CBSSports.com, putting NFL quarterbacks into tiers. In case you guys missed it, they are here. So you've got Tier 1, the big three, you called it. You got Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen. All of those make sense. Not sure anybody argues about those. Tier 2 could join them next year. Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, one of your favorites, and Jalen Hurts. Tier 3, intrigue with question marks. Aaron Rodgers, Stafford, Tua, Justin Fields, Danny Dimes, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. Tier 4, you can win with them. You got Goff, Dak Prescott. Okay, we're just going Jimmy Garoppolo, my guy from there. Then you got Tier 5, some future potential can win with them guys. And then you got Tier 6, which you really took a lot of flack for, which is No Clue Man, and Kyler Murray is a part of that group with Sam Howell, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder, and then you got the rookies in Tier 7, and then you got Tier X, which is Justin freaking Case, and that is Tom Brady, which is an interesting one. But first, let's start with how you came up with this, because in my mind, I see you sitting at your desk, listening to some Fish, maybe some Grateful Dead, with a glass of wine or a beer, just hammering this out.
Yeah, that's disturbingly accurate. There was no desk. I was sitting in my chair. I believe it was July 4th when I actually had to write it, because it ran July 5th. Jason La Canfora had done this the previous 2 years for CBSSports.com, and his tiers were a little bit different than mine. Like, one was bona fide franchise quarterbacks, and then long-term proven winners, and you had and I wanted to kind of change up the tiers so that way I would have a little more flexibility in how I slotted these guys out. For instance, you can win with them. Those are guys who've hit their ceiling. And Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl. I'm not dragging, but Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have Kirk Cousins.
Oh, you can win with him. You can win with him, but you can't win it all with him.
Maybe you can win it all with him, but everything has to go right. It has to be on a Niners team that's stacked with Kyle Shanahan and tons of weapons, and you need to not run into Patrick Mahomes at the end, right? But all those guys, to me, none of those guys has this extra gear, this extra level of performance that we haven't seen, that we're going to magically see unlocked. And people got mad, Tier 3, Daniel Jones, intrigue with question marks, right? And it's I get it. Daniel Jones his resume is not as good as Dak Prescott. I totally understand that. Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones on what he's done so far in his career. But Daniel Jones, for his first year, just got Brian Dable, who, by the way, had incredible success with Josh Allen, and then Josh Allen led the league in turnovers last year. And now, we know what Dak's going to be. Dak is going to be Dak this year. He's not going to magically become a different, better quarterback. If he could have a great season and everything could click with a new offensive coordinator, I don't think it will. But Daniel Jones has some untapped potential because we haven't seen him. We've only seen him 1 year in this offense. Justin Fields, some people are betting him for MVP at I think it's down to 70-1, maybe. We need to look, but
crazy, yeah.
I know it was 150. I think that's a weird bet, but I understand why it's there, because his freak show athleticism, the way he ran last year, and if he puts it together as a passer, especially with DJ Moore in town now, then you can start to look at this and say, all right, maybe this all clicks. But that's sort of the way that tier works. And then we talked about it. We did a Pick Six podcast, Arizona Cardinals pod, and I don't know if Kyler Murray's playing. I don't know when he's playing. I don't know where he's playing next year. I don't know if he plays this year. I don't know if it's week 1, week 5, week 17. If he plays for the I don't know, maybe he's playing for the Jets in 2024, somewhere. Who knows? Who the hell knows where Kyler's going to play? And I don't think Kyler does. And so I call it flack for that, because I suggest people saw it without the context of I don't know anything about what
Yes.
Kyler will do. It took it as I think Kyler sucks. And so Kyler tweeted about it, and then the New York Post wrote about it, and then the Daily Mail wrote about it. And now, so I'm an international public enemy number one, apparently, with Cardinals fans.
Yes, you are. We had a Cardinals podcast the other day on the Pick Six podcast, and we had an insider on there. And literally, the first thing he says is, "Well, I didn't realize I'd be talking to public enemy number one
I know.
today."
I was like, oh God.
Came out swinging. But I will say, a lot of people just looked at the graphic of the tiers without any kind of context. And those are the people that came after you. Are you surprised by this reaction? Like you said, it got picked up on a ton of different outlets. You've been doing a lot of radio about it. Here you are talking about it with us here on Moxie Bets. Kyler Murray said that he loved it. So he saw it, maybe some bulletin material. Are you surprised by how much attention this is getting?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, like, it's cool. It's hilarious. I mean, I've been doing, I've been doing this for like, what, 12 years or something like that for CBS. And, this happens with stuff sometimes. Usually it'll be like, I once traded Jimmy Garoppolo to the Niners. No, I traded him to he traded him to Washington from the Patriots.
Okay.
I traded Kirk Cousins from Washington to the Niners. I traded Phillip Rivers from the Chargers to the Titans, and these are all in mock drafts. And like people lost their minds, and they would they call you like Ken Wisenhunt was coaching the Chargers at the time, and we were leaving the owners meetings, and we ran into him at the airport, and he gave me this like death stare. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like this, you're the clown that I have to answer these questions about Phillip Rivers trades because you decided to throw one in a mock draft as like just like I'm feeling frisky. I'm gonna toss a mock draft and like toss a trade in there." And he was like furious, like Pete. It was me and Pete Brisky. He's like, "Yeah, Pete, Ken, you know Will Brinson, right?" He's just like angry as hell. But this was a whole different ball game because I put them together and I was like, I think if you read this article, these are very sensible tiers, and that I have not gone out on a crazy limb here and made it like I'm not like. But I went on Dallas radio, and they're like, "Is it true that editorially you guys purposely like put the Cowboys lower?" And I was like, man, I mean, we definitely talk about the Cowboys more editorially. Like, that's true, but like I promise you, I wrote this on 4th of July. I didn't mean to like drag Dak. And then people also asked, like, did you purposely put
so
Kyler
un-American?
I know, right?
On the 4th of July, putting down America's team like that.
Oh, I think the un-American thing was my editor assigning it from July 5th. Is the expecting me to, or I could have done it ahead of time. But the people were like, "Did you put Kyler in tier 6 just to stir up controversy?" I was like, "No." Like
Read the article.
Yeah. So like, there was nothing like I was surprised at that backlash, the accusation that like I was out here purposely trying to stir up controversy when, but yeah, I mean, like I'm not surprised that people are upset, but it definitely blew up way bigger than I expected.
Yeah, and I feel like it's still got legs to it as well. So, I mean, I know in the Pick Six, we've been meeting with different insiders from every team in our All 32 series. Have you been convinced to update any of your tiers? Because I kind of felt like in our Cardinals podcast, we were both a little bit swayed, right? Because neither of us think the Cardinals are going to do anything this year. And then we had Johnny come on, and he was just so gung ho. Which, of course, we know these people are going to be a little bit homers, but like I was like, oh man. Does Kyler Murray play?
Yeah, I think that the way that Johnny described it, I was like, "Oh my god, if Kyler plays week 1, I'm getting old takes exposed." And like Fred Siegel, like I can just see it now. It's like Kyler throws a game-winning touchdown in week 1 and for like 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, and it's like, and like the Cardinals tweet out like how do these tears taste or something like like with like TEARS and like I'm just I can see the old take coming. Like I've been old takes before. I have some bad takes that have maybe looked stupid, Katie, and I'm not afraid to look stupid, clearly. But I think that like this, like I am fully aware of the now I think the Cardinals podcast may be fully aware of what I am facing from a blow up in your face idiot perspective. I think I would probably go Kyler in tier 3 if I was changing it, just because it's like he has.
Now, wait. Hold on. Yeah. Would you change that now, or would you change that thinking like if he plays, he moves up to tier 3? Are you saying right now, not knowing,
Yeah, well, so
Because
I think,
because
yeah,
these
I
tier
think,
sixes, we don't know, man. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I mean, I feel fine with the no clue man tier with Kyler, like because we don't know. But if I was trying to like cover my butt and not look like a total idiot down the road, I would move him into tier 3. I am now completely exposed to like
Yeah.
all Kyler liability. Like anything good Kyler does is coming. Thank God it's not like a like the Giants or like the Packers or the Steelers, like some huge fan
A
base. It's
huge
the
fan base.
Cardinals, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and no offense to the
Yeah.
Cardinals, but if you're gonna have one fan base mad at you, the Cardinals are a pretty good one. Like the Jaguars, you would
Yes.
think they would be good, but they're actually like the saltiest because they're basically like South Georgia fan. Like,
Really?
oh yeah, they're so salty, so
Okay.
salty in Jacksonville.
Okay. That makes sense. So
Arizona, though, I think is fine. So,
Kyler's ability, tier 3,
yeah,
where Kyler stands right
Kyler's
now based on certain
availability
circumstances.
tier 6.
Availability,
Yeah.
tier 6. Okay, that makes sense. All right, we are going to take a quick break, but before we do, Omaha Productions' new show, Quarterback, is now streaming on Netflix. Brinson, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch this yet. I am now, I believe, on episode 6,
You're
and
on episode
I
2
am loving it.
yesterday. Are you
Yes.
ripping
Yeah,
through
no,
them?
well, first of all, we're all-star break right now for
Yeah,
baseball, right? What is there to watch
nothing.
besides quarterback? So, a couple things that I'm taking away from this, and again, I don't know if you've started watching this yet, so I will go to you for your opinion. Patrick Mahomes, seeing what goes into someone being great, I find incredibly interesting, and it's been so cool to see his process and also his family life, because I do think his wife gets a lot of flack, and so it's been kind of interesting to see them at home as real people. I find her to be a lot more likable, and I find him to be very interesting. And then there's Kirk Cousins, and I tweeted this the other day. I've already started mentally walking back all of the trash that I have talked about Kirk Cousins because he's such a nice guy. How could I say all of the things that, by the way, he has earned on the football field about someone that's just nice?
Well, I think that's the one thing, and look, you can credit Omaha Productions for this too, because it's like the way that it's produced, the show is produced, is that
Yes.
you see this with like Peyton's Places and all the I mean, you even here you get the introspective of the close person, but like when you see these and you see like behind the scenes stuff, it's very obvious that it's well produced because you get to know the person of Kirk Cousins. And like Marcus Mariota is boring. He's like
Yes.
Vanilla Ice Cream falls asleep like talking to Marcus Mariota, because it's like, dude, like this is it's like tapioca pudding is like, God, this guy is so boring. Kirk
Yeah.
Cousins is like just a very likable human being. And I think what was interesting is that we probably thought, he's like, I mean, big Jesus guy.
So,
Who doesn't love
big
Jesus?
Jesus
But like the big fan of the big J. But the they think
you down with G-O-D?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My mom was a minister too, so which explains why
Oh, really?
that checks out. Yeah,
Okay.
she went back to school the same
Yeah,
year I
okay.
did. 90. Yeah, yeah. We combined to make Dean's List, I think, once. Anyway,
Great.
I think with but you get this introspection into Kirk Cousins and Mahomes, and I think it's really interesting because I think Mahomes probably profiled, as you point, Mahomes is like this. Oh, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's like the nice, sweet, talks like a frog, and like all of a sudden, you're like, this guy is a savage. Like he is an absolute, as you call him, he's got to be a psychopath to be great. He's a savage who like is smack talking the Raiders, and he's like I'm that guy. And you're like, holy cow! Like he's way more aggressive and arrogant than maybe you thought. And then Kirk Cousins, you're like, oh man, it's like when you meet. It's like when you hate somebody and you meet him in person, you're like, oh, they're nice.
Well, and that's the thing too. I feel like with our jobs, we have to give takes on things. We have to criticize. You have to do tiers. We make bets, and then all of a sudden, sometimes when you meet them, you're like, "Oh, hi, how are ya?" And I feel that way even just watching Kirk Cousins. I've never met him, but watching him, I'm like, "Oh man, how could I say anything about you? Like you're just you take Tuesdays off to be with your family.
Right.
You just don't do it." And which some people would say maybe that's not competitive of you, and maybe that's not why you've been able to go past the hump. But he's just a great.
Well, you made the comp. It's like it's like the Tony Finau. He's like the Tony Finau of the NFL series. Where you're like, I know you're not going to ever win a Super Bowl because you're too nice, but dang it, I want you to. I'm rooting for you now.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly how I feel. So if you guys haven't seen it, here is a clip from the show. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back after this clip.
That's one of his strengths, the ability to make unscripted, off-platform plays. Yeah, the off-platform throws are baseball throws to me. It's not something that I'm like out there looking, how can I throw a sidearm pass? I'm just trying to find a way to get the ball to the playmakers in space. I'm nasty. I'm nasty. I work on them. If you're put in this position, how can you make this throw? I got one more. And so that's stuff that I do in the offseason with Bobby, my trainer. That's stuff that I do with my quarterback coach. And that's stuff that I do at practice with the Chiefs.
Side right. Now, bang!
And it's prepare myself to be in those positions and to make those throws.
There's where the perfect ball path.
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Here with Will Brinson of CBS Sports and the Pick Six podcast. All right, Will, it's time for some quarterback futures. We're going to take a look at some futures related to each of your tiers for your quarterbacks. First up, of course, we're going to go with your tier number 1. So there is something on Caesars right now that basically says you can take the favorites, which is Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen, or the field for league MVP. Now, any other player to win regular season MVP is at minus 240. Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, plus 190. Would you bet against your top 1 tier quarterbacks?
I mean, I think it's like, I don't know if obviously this bet is not correlated at all to my tier, and I didn't know about this bet when I made the tier, but I think it was really interesting that, I think it's interesting that this is the consensus of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, it makes me feel better about my tier 1 that a sports book is like, here's the top 3 guys. I don't know. I think that the numbers here would make me take you should always take the field and stuff like this. Like, anytime you're offered, like you get the 3 golfers versus the field, you take the field because it's a long season. It's, as I like to say, a game played with an inflated pig butt that's shaped oblong that bounces in different ways, and weird stuff happens. Guys get hurt. You never know what's going to happen. Having said that, man, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen at almost 2-1 to an MVP.
Nice.
The Mahomes won last year. You don't see a bunch of back-to-backs, but he's a guy who could win back-to-back. We saw this with Peyton Manning. Omaha. He won he won, I think, 3 in a span of 5 years. I have to go back and look. But when it's somebody like Mahomes who's so great, I think that the voters, remember now they do the tiered system where you vote 1 through 5. I think that you're going to see Mahomes is going to be on every ballot if he plays 17 games, right? Or 16 games if he has to sit out the final week. And I wouldn't want to lay minus 240 to fade Patrick Mahomes. So I think if I'm picking a side here, I'm going plus 190 in the big 3.
Yeah, I have to agree with you too. I'm not going to lay almost $2.50 to bet against Mahomes, Burrow, and Josh Allen. And who knows, maybe Josh Allen's going to have a better year this year, although we do know I don't love to bet on the Bills so much anymore. Okay, so moving on to tier number 2, who do we think is the best value for regular season MVP? You've got Jalen Hurts at 12-1, then you got Herbert 15-1, then you got Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson both tied at 16-1.
So, interestingly here, John Breach has talked about this on the Pick Six pod before a bunch. To win MVP, you almost have to win your division. Like it's that's sense. Really tied in there. It makes total sense. But like if you look at it, like all these you have to win 12 plus games to win. Like you're not going to win MVP at like 10-7, more than likely.
Okay. Yeah.
Justin Herbert's in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to bet 15-1 on a guy who has to. I picked the Chargers to win a lot in my life, and buddy, I tell you what, they disappoint you every time.
Phillip Rivers guy.
A lot of Chargers pain around this household. Jalen Hurts at 12-1, I think is just a little too short. People will want to. He has to validate what he did last year. He has to stay healthy, and if he's running near the goal line a lot, it's going to be difficult. Plus, I think you're going to see people gravitate towards the AFC maybe a little bit more because of whoever comes out of there, it's going to be tough to repeat what he did last season. So that leaves Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson. I wish that the numbers were both above 20-1. I think those would be a little more fair. These numbers are shrunk more than I'd like to see. But of those 2, Lawrence has the best chance to win his division and take a massive step forward and just sort of I think Lawrence is the pick here. Like
I knew you were
I
going to
think
go Trevor
Lawrence.
Lawrence. I didn't know your reasoning, but I knew you were going to go
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence here based on the odds. And I know that, you like Trevor Lawrence. I agree
love
with
Trevor
you.
Lawrence.
There's a lot of upside with Trevor Lawrence. And like you said, he has the best chance of winning the division. You look at where Lamar Jackson is, that is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I was going to agree with you on this one, but I actually do. I think that is the best value based on what you explained.
And remember, Trevor Lawrence is one of 4 dudes: John Elway, Peyton Manning again. I swear I'm not putting Peyton Manning references here on purpose.
we love that here. We love that here.
Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence. Those are the only 4 guys since like 1980 who have been absolute stone cold locks from the number 1 overall pick. And we all believed unquestionably that they were generational prospects who would change whatever franchise they landed with. That was true for Elway. It was true for Peyton. It was true for Andrew Luck until he had to retire. And I think it will be true for Trevor Lawrence. People are Urban Meyer is the worst coach the worst hire in the history of the professional football and maybe professional sports. And that to me is a redshirt year. Lawrence took steps last year. Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning coach, who is a high level quarterback developer. I think there's a chance that Lawrence just has, and look, I watched that dude a lot at NC State, and he beat our butts every time. He is an elite quarterback. He can win with his legs, win with his arm. I think he could take a massive jump forward. And as our pal Pete Prisco pointed out, he could be a top 10 player in the NFL next year.
He could win with his hair, as far as I'm concerned, because that is a great
hair. Great hair.
Yes. All right. So moving on to tier number 3, we've zeroed in on one of those quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers. Of course, the New York Jets have been chosen on Hard Knocks. That might actually get me to watch that show again. I haven't watched it in a few seasons, but I definitely want to see Aaron Rodgers at training camp with the Jets. So what are your expectations for them this season? And specifically, let's look at Aaron Rodgers passing touchdowns. The line is set to 27.5. That over juiced to minus 130, under at even money.
Did that move up a touch? One?
I feel like it did.
I feel
like it did.
I feel like last week we did it, like a week ago, we did a Jets podcast and it was 26.5.
Yeah. Went up.
Did we move the line?
I bet we did.
I bet we did.
By the way, every time the line moves, I'm like, I moved the line, obviously. I mean,
yeah. Like I've been telling everybody, like I moved the Bills future line like 5 cents or something like that. I would take the over here. I think, Deuce was on the podcast and he explained, like, and he points out, like, Aaron Rodgers hit this number 15 out of 17 seasons. And he is, I think he's going to be throwing in the red zone. I think they'll want to bootleg him out and use his arm in the red zone to make good decisions. And they may, the Jets will, like this. I don't think they're going to necessarily be like a power run team, aggressively in those spots. And remember, Nathaniel Hackett, 2 seasons, wins MVP. He's the guy calling those plays for Aaron Rodgers. And so you're going to see something similar. He trusts him in the red zone, and he's got those weapons in the red zone, whether it's, you don't think about Randall Cobb as a red zone weapon, but he's so shifty underneath, running out of the slot that can work. Tyler Conklin, an option there as well. And then you have some pass catching backs. Of course, Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson. There's just so many weapons in there. I think I would definitely take the over here. I think I'll go under passing yards, and I think he gets over 30 passing touchdowns.
Okay, I love it. I have to agree with you there. You never want to bet against a spiteful Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think that last season in Green Bay are really numbers that we should be going off of as well. They didn't really have any pass catchers, and he was completely unhappy to be there. So I agree with you on that one. Now for tier 4, we're going to look at the Lions and Jared Goff. Can he lead Detroit to the playoffs? Yes, minus 170, little juicy there. No, plus 140. Is there a chance that the Lions miss the playoffs?
Yes, there is. I mean, any team can miss the playoffs. Even the Chiefs can miss the playoffs. Now, is it likely? No. The Lions hype train is a bit too full for me. You're talking about a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, and they're the favorite to win the division now.
It's crazy.
They drafted a linebacker and a running back at their first 2 picks, and it's like, man, I mean, maybe those guys help right now. Maybe you feel like your roster's in such a spot that you can make those picks, but it's like that's not really what you want for the long haul. They do have a bunch of young players that people don't like. Amon St. Brown is a true number 1 wideout. He's an absolute stud. He doesn't get the recognition quite yet. My boy Aleem McNeil on the inside on the defense is fantastic. Like, they just have a bunch of under the radar guys, I think, and they've got a great coaching staff that is, has built this. The coaching staff in the front office have built this team in a unified vision, like to execute what Dan Campbell wants to be. I don't want to bet no here because the NFC is so bad. Like Jared Goff might be the fourth best quarterback in the NFC.
Wild. Which is wild.
Isn't that insane to say? And you're like, that's an idiot. You're an idiot sandwich. And then it's like, and then you're like, wait a minute. I just counted the quarterbacks. I mean, it's Dak, or it's Hurts, Dak,
Purdy,
Cousins, and Jared Goff.
I mean, yeah.
It is not pretty out there if these, especially if like Bryce Young and there's a lot of unknowns, of course, but like I think Goff is good enough. And when I went through and did the schedule and did the Brinson model, where I broke down the Lions, the Lions win loss total, I was like, it was impossible to have their win loss be such that they didn't like win the division or at least make the playoffs.
Okay. All right. Moving on to tier number 5. Little baby hands, Kenny Pickett, touchdowns. Over under 17.5, both at -115. I gotta say, I know I called him baby hands, but she does have very small hands. That's a fact. I like Kenny Pickett. He is ballsy and gutsy, and yeah, he threw a lot of picks last year, but I like that he's not afraid to make those decisions. And I think once he gets a little better, that's going to pick up. So 17.5 for Kenny Pickett.
I mean, in general, that feels really low. He didn't throw a ton. I'm just trying to do the quick math here. So he did. Oh boy! So over his last 7 games, he threw 5 touchdowns. That's like if you
he had a lot of rushing touchdowns, though, right? Wasn't he using his legs a lot? I can't remember.
If he used his legs pretty well at the end, but I don't think he had a ton of touchdowns. Okay. It felt like he just played a lot better in the second half of the season,
which makes sense.
And remember, he got hurt against Baltimore too in one of those games. Well, actually, I guess if you take the Baltimore game out of there, I mean, I think I would take the over here. I think it's too low. There's a guy who I don't think he didn't throw more than 1 passing touchdown in a game last year.
Right.
Matt Canada's presence is highly concerning. I don't think. I mean, like as we pointed out on the Pick Six pod, it's like the Steelers have 3. Oh, actually, you weren't on there because it was me, B-Beck, and Wilson. The Steelers have 3 coaches on their offensive staff from the 2013 NC State team that went 0-8 in the conference. Like, only I would know that. Right, but it's like, and then like the next year the team was good, but it's like, what a weird coincidence, and why is that? Why? Like, trust me, you don't want to replicate what we're doing here. I think that the scheme and the play calling is concerning. The weapons are there. The offensive line looks like it's going to be better. Kenny Pickett should take a step forward. The home games and the weather can be a problem, but in general, I think the over here is probably the play.
Okay, moving on to your best friend, Kyler Murray with tier 6. Now, this is interesting because you and I, for months, have been saying take the under on the Arizona Cardinals win total. It was at 5. It dropped to 4.5. Now, you said wait for it to drop because you're going to get better value there. But now, after talking to the Cardinals fans and the Cardinals insiders, how do you feel about this 4.5 over or under?
I mean, I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can take the over on the Cardinals. Like I don't. I mean, this is what is this? This is like the equivalent of like betting the over on the who's the worst team in baseball right now? Like the Nats. You're taking the Nats
A's?
over like 70. The A's. Yeah. Like the A, you're taking the over like 68.5. And you're like, they got to win 70 games. And they're just on pace for like 55. I mean, I think the problem with the Cardinals is, and we talked about this, when does Kyler play? Because if Kyler does not play in week 1 at Washington, Giants and Cowboys at home, and at the Niners, let's say he doesn't play the first 4 weeks, it is really hard to see a path where they're better than 1-3. Then you got the Bengals at the Rams, at the Seahawks, and the Ravens. And so now we're 8 weeks in, and they at absolute best have like 3 wins, maybe 2 wins with no Kyler. There's no chance they're bringing him back to play on a team that is guaranteed to have a losing record, on a team that has 2 first-round picks and would definitely consider Caleb Williams the number 1 overall pick. I know Daniel Jeremiah put out a scouting report that's like, this dude's like a little shorter Josh Allen, basically. Like he's barring some just disaster, he's going first overall. And I just think the other thing is he has to pass an exit physical at the end of the year. Yeah. So if he gets hurt at the end of the year, you can't trade him. You can't cut him because, if he can't pass that physical. And so you have to deal with that possibility. I think if he doesn't play by week 4, then he doesn't play this season. Again, that goes back to my tier 6. That's why he was there, because we don't know. And I would take the under on the Cardinals. I cannot be talked into taking this over.
No, I would feel fine about taking the under and then being surprised and losing that bet than taking the over and being humiliated for doing that. So I agree with you as well. Tier 7, the rookies, looking at Bryce Young, his passing yards pretty high, 3,446 and a half, both minus 115. Can Bryce go over that?
I think so. And I don't want to sit here and take all overs because I mean that's feels like a
Well,
although it's an optimistic thing to do, right?
yes.
You look at Phillip Rivers, 4,169 passing yards with the Colts in that first season with Frank Reich. The passing attempts is the concern with Bryce Young, I think, because generally speaking, you don't see as many passing attempts in like a Frank Reich style offense especially with a younger quarterback. I think he'll try. I think they're going to try to run the ball. They bring in Miles Sanders. I think they've added the offensive line. They don't. Frank Reich is going to want to make life easy for Bryce Young. So that's my only concern. But 3,500 passing yards is just not a lot. You're talking about in over a 17-game
Oh, I
season.
guess you're right. I don't know. I don't know why I was thinking that this was higher because the big boys are getting over. I mean, the real big boys are getting over 5,000 if you can. Yeah, that's ceiling.
Well, the thing is like, and I think this is interesting, is that for these player props for the season-long futures, I still don't know that the sports books have fully adjusted to the idea of a 17-game schedule because we don't. It's difficult. Like it's still something that we're kind of getting used to.
Yeah.
The record books haven't changed. You check, there's only a couple, and the other thing is like that's 206 passing yards per game over 17 games. I mean, if he plays 17 games, I think he gets there. I don't think Bryce Young is going to be like 180, 190. Like, the Panthers defense is good. It's not great, but I mean, I think the over there is the play for the full season. It is risky to go over on full season props in July though, because a lot of time, a lot of training camp and a lot of preseason to go.
Okay. Very, very good point by you. All right. Tier X. Tom Brady, part owner, potentially quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Their win total 7.5. The over plus 170, under juiced to minus 190. Hard to bet on the rate. Look, I never thought that Tom Brady was going to play quarterback there. I know you were flirting with the idea for a little bit, but it seems to me like Jimmy Garoppolo was playing.
Yeah, assuming Jimmy G's healthy. I mean, the theory was that Tom Brady wanted to buy the Galaxy Brain conspiracy theory was that Tom Brady wanted to buy the team, become minority owner, and then go in there and be like, "Hey, Jimmy, remember when you tried to bench me? You're benched now, and I'm the captain now, and like take over the Jimmy G's job. Like after Jimmy G tried to get him in New England. Obviously, I'm kidding.
We need that on next season of quarterback, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my God, can you imagine that happen? That would be like the when First Cut, it's like they were filming when like the Live PGA thing happened for the upcoming season. They're like, yeah, like that would be. It's like It's like there's like a camera in like on Jimmy Garoppolo when he finds out Tom Brady is just taking his job and benching him because he owns part of the team. That one of the things that sportsbooks I think have started to do is with these win totals is because if you have the Raiders at 7.5. And then there's questions about the quarterback position, and you move them down to 6.5. Every person who bet the under at 7.5 is probably going to come back and bet the over 6.5 because if you land that 7 wins, which is, I mean, it's tough to do, but that's not unreasonable. You're going to get middled and you can lose both, and you're guaranteed. You have a window where you're like, if you bet it, you're not going to lose. Instead of sliding it down, they've just started to adjust the juice, like move it from under 7.5 from minus 120 to minus 190. They don't want you betting the under on the Raiders right now.
Okay.
That's why it's 190. Yeah. Like they want you to have to pay a hefty toll to bet the under on the Raiders. So like I would go under. I don't love the minus 190. I just don't. I think you look at this roster and they took one step forward, one step back. Derek Carr, then to, et cetera. Like they didn't do enough for me to say they can win 8+ games or flirt with 500, even at almost 2-1.
All right. Well, Will, thank you so much for your time today. If you're curious about this quarterback tier article, it's on cbssports.com along with everything else that Will Brinson writes. You can also catch him on the Pick Six podcast, as you can catch me as well on that. And Will Brinson at Will Brinson on twitter.com. Brinson, I will see you in about 10 minutes on our next show, but thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Katie. It was a blast.
All right. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social and tweet us your questions. You may end up on one of our shows. We'll see you next time.